Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube? Biggie546, and the Giants have brought in Dennard Wilson, a defensive coordinator. And I just wanted to show a couple of plays from the Tennessee Titans' glory season with him at defensive coordinator. They were second overall in defense. They were fourth in passing yards. They didn't do as well against the run, but he had a pretty good season his first year as the Titans defensive coordinator. They kind of fell off. They lost like 5 or 6 starters after that first season. They lost Harold Landry, who's going to the Super Bowl right now with the Patriots. They lost Kenneth Murray, who was pretty solid for them. Wasn't all that great, but pretty solid for them as a starter. He went to the Cowboys, and he hasn't been really good there. And they lost a couple of other guys that were just kind of nice starting pieces. Not star players, but really solid players. And then, of course, their biggest loss probably besides Harold Landry, who was their leading sack guy with 9 sacks last year. Their biggest loss is probably Roger McCreary, who they traded away this season before the trade deadline. So the Titans kind of said, we're tearing it all down. And, hopefully this leads to us getting some better draft picks and clearing out the cap and competing in a couple of years. So Dennard Wilson was a victim of this. Just kind of an overview of Dennard Wilson. One thing I'll say is the guy's defense is very aggressive. They're very aggressive, and when I say that, they are not a heavy blitzing team. He's not a heavy blitzer. This may change when he comes here. He hasn't blitzed a ton as a Titans defensive coordinator, but that could just be personnel. They are aggressive in their assignments. So the safeties are extremely aggressive. They're extremely aggressive, which is why you have a bunch of games where they do really well and they get 3 or 4 interceptions. And then there are games where they give up 40 or 50 points because guys are just being so aggressive that the ball's just going past them. So there's pros and cons to that. And if you have better players, you would hope that you wouldn't be giving up 40 points in some of these games. But they are an aggressive team. Safeties are aggressive. Corners are aggressive. Linebackers are aggressive. Guys are getting after it, getting after the quarterback, getting after passes that are in the air. So aggressive team, and they press everything. On any given play, there's going to be at least one guy getting pressed. Sometimes they'll press bail, which means they press at the line of scrimmage and they just kind of back off right after that. Sometimes they'll play a little bit off, but for most of the time, you'll see some press, and most of the time it's zone. So that's just a high overview of his defense. But this first play, I just wanted to show you, this is really an aggressive, physical defense. So take a look at the corner over on the left side of the screen. He's going to set the edge against this receiver, come up and make the tackle. And this is what he expects from his corners. Like, this is what he's expecting from his corners, is that they're going to come up, they're going to take on blockers, receivers, tight ends sometimes. They're going to take these guys on and they're going to win and they're going to tackle. So there's been some concerns about, are we going to bring back Cordell Flott? Because Cordell Flott probably isn't this guy that's going to be doing that. Is he going to be able to take on those blockers? I don't think so. So are we going to bring back Cordell Flott, or are we going to look towards the draft? Maybe LSU, Mansour Delane, maybe we look after him. So we'll see what the decision is there. I think Adebo can play this type of corner role. And, not everybody has to be a dominant run defending corner, but this is what he expects. He expects this type of physicality from his defense. So on this play, you're going to see this safety. He's going to start to kind of cheat up, because look at this side of the field as the play starts. You got a receiver there looking like he's going to go into the flats, or, maybe he might run out here somewhere. And you got a receiver on a go ball. So he trusts his corner to carry this all the way downfield as if he was playing cover 3 or cover 4. And he's just kind of sagging up, stepping around into the middle of the field. He's very flat-footed to where this starts off as a cover 4, and essentially it starts to become a cover 3. It's almost like he's playing 2 coverages at the same time. So normally a cover 4 is this, where you got these 2 guys deep, and of course, as a safety, you're going to react to what's in front of you. You're not going to just blindly sink back here if there's nobody there. But this safety is kind of so far ahead here, it becomes a cover 3, because he's kind of just playing in the middle of the field. So you got him in the middle of the field, him downfield. So it turns into a cover 3, and it starts off. The play starts off from the quarterback's point of view. Take a look at it. Like, he's not necessarily stepping forward. And from the pocket, this is looking like he's still pretty deep. So it starts off as a cover 4, and then this safety all of a sudden is just in this area. And that's what these safeties do almost every play. They're coming down and they're getting into these throwing lanes. So he's in this lane. So there's nowhere to go there. And then notice Mac Jones is throwing with anticipation here. And look at the other safety. Other safety has his eyes on Mac Jones, and he's breaking on it. And he almost gets the interception. And this is kind of a miscommunication between Mac Jones and the receiver. Look at how this safety is. The safeties both safeties do this when he rotates the defense, and he got cornerbacks playing safeties. They're all jumping everything. They're all very aggressive. Look at how much ground. I think this is Amani Hooker, who had a pretty good season for the Titans in 2024. He had like 5 interceptions. Look at how they're breaking on the ball here. Like, look, they're not playing around here. All right, check this out. This is against the Patriots, and take a look at Amani Hooker here. This is just some more of just aggression. He's very aggressive with his safeties, and again, this is how he had some of these games where he gave up 30, 40 points. So let's take a look here. Take a look at the bottom screen safety. Starts his drop. Is paying attention. Sees that booty here. Is kind of getting some separation here. And he just starts hightailing it to the middle of the field. And again, there's no real aggressive drop back here. Because if you take a look at this pre-snap, looks like cover 4, maybe cover 2. And the safety here at the top of the screen just takes a step up. And it looks like cover 3 now. And he's basically almost like a Tampa 2. So Tampa 2 is normally where this middle linebacker would make this look like this is a cover 2, where you got these 2 guys dropping back deep. And then this linebacker basically runs the ladder. So let's say the tight end is running a seam here. Let's say the tight end is running a seam there. He would carry the tight end as far as you take the tight end. So he's basically turning this defense into a 3-deep defense. But again, this guy starts to kind of sink forward. And as he sinks forward and this starts to look like a cover 3, this corner is basically, this safety, is basically covering the middle of the field. So basically turns it back into a cover 3. The middle of the field is not open. And I'm telling you folks, he does this every single play. Every single play there's a safety stepping up. And here we go again, more of the same. This safety again starts off stepping forward. It looks like a 2-deep safety coverage. They send a blitz here, send a linebacker. I think he comes on a kind of a slant here. And there are a lot of stunts in this defense. So the safety is going to start to kind of step forward here to the middle of the field here. So again, what are we looking at now? He's kind of, patrolling this area of the field. You got the linebacker at this level. You got the corner here. And you got 2 guys taking these half of the fields. And you got the safety, the deep safety, to the middle of the field. So it's looking like a cover 3. Looking like a cover 3 now. And he completely loses the safety here because the safety is basically playing linebacker at this point. He's all the way up here. And this was a pre-snap cover 2 look. And he just is able to undercut this and do some damage with it. And again, this is just very difficult, especially against a guy like Drake May, who was a rookie at this point. It is very difficult to understand what this guy, Dennard Wilson, is doing with his safety. He's in a deep shell almost every play. Sometimes the safety is going to drop back. Sometimes both of them will drop back. Sometimes you'll have the safety just stand right here. Or this other safety will just stand right here while the other one drops back to the middle of the field. And sometimes one of them will cheat forward to basically where they're playing linebacker. So another thing Dennard Wilson likes to do is kind of leave this safety here, like we've talked about. Except he likes to play kind of like a cover 1 robber kind of situation where this safety will be dropping deep. You'll play man coverage across the board. And I think this one of these linebackers will take the tight end, one of the linebackers will take the running back. But 28 here is just going to kind of hold his ground here, play a robber position, and he's just going to double everything he sees. So Everything that comes into his zone, he's doubling. Jumping that right there. Doubling Tyreek Hill right here on the scene. Doubling Jalen Waddle. And by that time, your quarterback is sacked. And then watch here how he just really does a great job of just causing confusion here on the defensive line to where he gets his best edge rusher unblocked to the quarterback. So this linebacker is going to take this gap here. It's going to take the B gap. Harold Landry is going to get unblocked to the quarterback. So the running back really had to pick up that quarterback because, listen, 56 coming straight up the middle. Look at how he drops 53 out of the gap and replaces the other gap with 56. So what happens is 53 drops, 49 drops. You got two people taking a defensive end or taking a nose tackle because he's slanting over here. You got two people taking number 59. So you got two defensive tackles being double teamed. And then Harold Landry's unblocked. And 56 is getting picked up by the tackle. So easy work right here. Just a nice play design. Occupying the left tackle and the left guard with two linebackers right over top of them. Dropping them both. Replacing them on the other side with 56. And with a 4-man rush, this is not a blitz, folks. You get a free hit on the quarterback. All right, so I'll stop it here. I wanted to go after a guy like Leonard from the Denver Broncos. I thought that he was very creative. I thought that he would give us a really good chance to go out and be an elite defense just because of how creative he is. But if I were to say that there was a second person who could possibly be a defensive genius, it would be Dennard Wilson. Very creative. Another secondary guy. They both have that secondary background, Jim Leonard, Dennard Wilson. So they both have that in common. There's a lot of disguise back there. There is a lot of nuance in the secondary, and they can get pressure without necessary blitzing, like I just showed you. So I want quarterbacks to be confused. I think he will do that. I want there to be pressure on the quarterbacks. I think he will do that. And I want people to knock wide receivers off of their routes, which I think he will do consistently. So I will probably rate this higher as a solid 7, 8 out of 10. Of course, he could become amazing at defensive coordinator, or he could also, as we talked about, he could be a guy that gives up way too many big plays because his players and his scheme is just very aggressive, even without the blitzing. Again, I think he coaches players to be very aggressive, which is a good thing when you're coming from a Shane Bowen defense, but also can be very scary when you look at some of the results that you got from the Titans.